Lux, you are muted.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Good. Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Sam, for being here as well to help us out in the chat. Like she said, my name is Lux. I'm an artistic educator with PRAVANA. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your Monday to be here. I'm so excited to be here. I saw some people from Denver and Florida and all over the place. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. A little bit about me: I've been an educator for 4 years now. I've been doing hair for 11. I'm from, like I said, Columbus, Ohio. I've been born and raised here. I'm an avid soccer lover. Let's see. I drive a hot pink car. I always think that's really fun. So that's just a little bit about me. Today we're going to be going over our HydraGloss. It's our new Demi line that launched about a year ago. I'm so excited to be bringing that to you today. So we're going to be going over a full overview of HydraGloss, starting with, what is HydraGloss? How do you use it? We'll go over the whole portfolio, some got tongue-tied. Formulation questions, things like that. We're going to go over the whole portfolio, the hows, whens, and whys to use it, and then we'll recap at the end. So, like I said, just again, my name is Lux. I'm an artistic educator with PRAVANA, and today we're going to be going over HydraGloss. Awesome. Have any of you guys used HydraGloss? Awesome. So we're going to be starting. I have our handy swatch book here. We have this swatch book as well as the new inserts in our large color book that you can see behind me here. So whether you have this one or the swatch inserts, the information's the same on them, but just to point out, you may see it in two different formats. I'm going to use this one today because it's a little more handheld. So starting off, what is HydraGloss? So HydraGloss is our new Demi line. What that means, being a Demi-Permanent color, it is a non-oxidative hair color, meaning it has no ammonia in it. So it cannot lift the hair, it can only deposit. And the name HydraGloss, something I always like to point out, these Demis, these HydraGlosses we have are very, very, very shiny. They say up to 2 times the amount of shine versus untreated hair. So the way I like to remember HydraGloss is hydration and gloss being the shine. So they're very, very hydrating, very, very, very glossy. So diving more into that, like I said, it is a Demi-Permanent hair color line. And what you will do is you will mix. These are the packaging. They're their beautiful blue packaging. So it is a 1-to-1 mixing ratio with our Zero Lift developer. So remember, like I said, it's a Demi-Permanent shade. So since it's a Demi, you're always going to reach for your Zero Lift developer, and it's going to be a 1-to-1 mixing ratio. If you ever forget that, I know we get busy behind the chair. There's a lot of ratios and formulas to remember. Something I always like to point out with our color is that it is located on the back of the box as well. You can see there it says 1-to-1. That is the mixing ratio. That's also on our ChromaSilk cream hair color, which is a different mixing ratio. That's 1-to-1.5. So if you ever forget, it is on the back of the box here, how to mix the color. And again, that's 1 part HydraGloss to 1 part your developer of choice. You're going to want to use a scale to weigh that out. So I use grams in my salon. So that would be, for example, 10 grams of your color to 10 grams of your developer. And then it is a up to 20-minute processing time. Since this is a oxidative hair color like we talked about, the up to 20 minutes, you're gonna see it progressively getting darker as it goes. But I know that can sound scary, but that does not mean it's going to go darker past the desired shade. So if you're putting a level 10 on and you're letting it oxidize, it's going to process to a level 10, but you will see it get darker to that level 10 as it oxidizes. Diving into our book here, our HydraGloss book, if you guys have this book, something I like to point out is all this information we're going over. I'm sorry, I know the ring light I'm just going to point it out as leaving a little bit of a glare. But something I always like to point over, this information we're going over is all in your swatch book as well. It's either here on the back or it is in the swatch chart in your big book as well. Mixing ratios, processing times, even the stuff I talked about, the up to 2 times the shine, all of that is going to be listed here as well. So if you don't have this, you'll have this to reference back later, but if you're behind the chair and you're like, I can't remember what that lady from Ohio said, there are mixing instructions right here. Awesome. Something else I like to point out, so in this, we did just have an expansion, but the original line was 24 shades, including clear. You can see down here at the bottom. So 24 shades, including clear. And then we just recently launched our new reds line that had 5 shades in it. Has anyone got to use those yet? We're gonna go over those later. So if you haven't seen them yet, I'm so excited to be able to show them to you as well. So something I want to show you in the swatch book is you'll see all these different numbers, the natural series, and then it goes into your tonal families. 2 things that are special about HydraGloss. One, starting with the NT series, the natural line is a perfectly balanced neutral color, meaning it's not going to lean too warm or it's not going to lean too cool. They're perfectly balanced, and you have your 1 through your 10. So you have your whole family of naturals here. Something to remember too is this line is 100% intermixable with itself to create customization. Now here, you'll start to see all your tonal families. And something I like to point out too is we have this handy color wheel on the back that shows you where those tonal families lie, so you know exactly what you're grabbing. Because I know sometimes the lettering or the wording may get a little confusing. Like for example, like an ABV, an ash beige, that might be, you're like, where exactly does that lie? How much blue is that? Something like that, right? Because that could be a little confusing. So we do have the color wheel back here that shows you exactly where that lies in coordinates to, the other blues in the family. Something I like to point out too is you'll see some letters here are capitalized. A good example of this is a 1B versus, where's the 10B? Oh, 10B, sorry. The 1B versus the 10B. You can see the 1B is a capital B and the 10B is a lowercase b. So for each of these levels, the tones are perfectly calibrated to each level. So what this kind of means is the B here, when you see a capital letter, it means the pigment, for example, this blue pigment is more dominant in this shade versus when it's lowercase. Does that make sense? So this 1B, it's calibrated to have a lot more of that blue pigment versus a level 10B where you don't need as much pigment, because the 1B, you're going to be fighting against those red undertones. So it needs a lot more of that blue in there than your level 10 would be. Sorry, my finger's a little over. Your level 10 would be. Another example where you'll see the capitals is like the 7CR. The C is capital versus the R is the little lowercase. This is just telling you that there is a lot more of that copper pigment in there. That copper is more dominant than that red. The red is the less dominant tone. And you can even see that in the swatch. You can see, that it airs more on that copper side. Same with this blue, the 1B. You can actually, if you look at the swatch, you can see the blue pigment in there versus like with the 10B, you're not seeing blue to the eye, if that makes sense. Awesome. All right, I wanted to show you what I talked about. We had some new warmer shades too, because you can see in our tonal families here, we have ash beige violet, we have our blue series. I'm sorry, not our blue series, our beige series, which has blue in it. We have our gold series, our smoky beiges. We have just our beige series. And we have a few reds down here, but we felt like we were kind of, maybe missing a little bit. So this year, we launched 5 new copper shades. I want to show you these swatches here. So we have our 3R. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to use this to formulate for that cowboy copper that's so trendy. I'm going to use a little bit of that 3R in there. We have our 7C, and you can see the difference between that, and if you hold it up to the 7CR, you can kind of see that difference here. This one's, you have that, you're missing that R in there, but yeah, 7C. Isn't that beautiful? I love coppers, guys. I don't know about you, but I love copper. Every fall I make my hair copper. We also just did a 9G, a 9 gold. Love that one too. We also have a 6 gold. And I am missing one of the shades. I apologize. There is a 7 that I am missing today. So you'll have to be on the lookout for that one. But we did just launch those 5 new shades as well. I wanted to show you too. So we are expanding this line, which is super exciting. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Awesome. So we kind of talked about the overview of HydraGloss. You know, what is HydraGloss? We talked about that being a demi-permanent line that utilizes zero lift at a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, up to 20-minute processing. And we kind of went over our tonal families, what tonal families we offer, the new families that we just brought out to you guys, and kind of the 24-ish shades that we have currently, how to use those and what those are. And now I want to talk a little bit about how to use those, right? We talked about what it is. Now we want to talk about how to use those. Excuse me. So some great ways to utilize HydraGloss. One of my personal favorites is low lighting. Especially, I do a lot of blonde clients behind the chair, and sometimes they're not married to the low lights. Sometimes it's just something they want to try out, or they're a little, you know, a little spooked. Maybe I don't want to put permanent color on them right away. Something I love to do is low light with HydraGloss using our, you know, our neutral family, especially the 6NT. That's one of my go-tos behind the chair for low lighting. So I like to put some low lights in there. I also use it toning behind the chair, or maybe you call it glazing, whatever you call it behind your chair, but to refresh any colors or tone down my blondes after a highlight. Those are some ways that I love to use this. One of my favorite ways too is when I do a copper, since the HydraGloss is so shiny and adds so much shine to the hair. If I do like a copper, let's just say 744 to keep it simple, right? Like an overlay. I love to gloss up the bowl afterwards with maybe our new 7C shade or our 7CR shade, just to enhance that color even more and give it that shine and that like extra pop. That's something I really love to do. Speaking of glossing, something I'd love to point out, I mentioned here earlier that we do have a clear shade. So this clear shade can be used for customization with any of the other shades to create that customization or dilute a shade. But I also like to use it as a standalone by itself as a glossing treatment to add that hydration and shine. Sometimes you don't need the pigment, right? Like sometimes they don't color their hair, or the color they have is fine, but you want to do a glossing treatment for shine and moisture. That's a great option behind the chair there, is to use that clear. I always love that, a little pro tip. That's one of my favorite things, is using that as a clear gloss. Something else I want to talk about, a cool benefit with HydraGloss, is that it also offers up to 50% gray blending, which I think is really, really special. Something I don't see a lot maybe with demis before. So I really, really love using HydraGloss too to create gray blending. It's just gonna, you know, not completely cover it. It's just gonna, you know, does what it says. It just is gonna blend it in there. And with all the shades we offer, you really can create some great customization. So yeah, up to 50% gray blending too. Isn't that awesome? Great. All right, before moving on, I wanted to see if we had any questions so far. Looks like Sam's taking care of it in the chat. Sorry, when I went to do the chat, it muted you, so I apologize. I just was saying thank you to Sam. I saw she was answering some questions in the chat. Awesome, awesome. All right, so we talked about, what is HydraGloss? We talked about some examples of using HydraGloss, how I like to use it for low lighting, for gray blending, even that clear gloss standalone by itself. I love doing that behind the chair. I saw Ari here, it offers up to, it looked like you said, does it offer up to 50% gray blending? It does. That's one of the key features of HydraGloss is that you can have up to 50% gray blending as well, which is another way I love to use it. Excuse me, take a little drink there. Awesome. So yeah, like I was saying, we talked about what is HydraGloss, how to use it. We talked a little bit of some ways of how to use it. I wanted to talk about some custom I keep getting tricked up on that word today. I got tricked up earlier on it. Now I'm getting tricked up again. Some custom formulas for you guys and different ways to think about how to intermix all these shades, right? So I already mentioned, what was really popular maybe this year was one of the cowboy copper colors. So a way I like to create that is using our new 7C that I showed you guys earlier. This one here. And I like to add a little bit of like our 5 in with that. That's one of the ways I like to create that shade behind the chair. Or another example would be, I know calico hair is super trending right now. I personally like to do those sometimes with the Demi line. Because again, with the trends, sometimes you don't want to commit. So I like to use like the 7C for the calico portion, and you can use the 1N for the black portion, and then you can, pick your blondes. But that's another way I like to use it too, maybe a little bit more of a creative way. One of my favorite formulas too is like a strawberry blonde to create customization. So I really, really love one of my favorite shades is the 9 Gold Beige right here, the 9 GBV. That is one of my favorite shades we have. So I like to use that and add like the tiniest drop of this 5R. 5R is very, very pigmented, as you can see. I like to add just the teeniest tiny drop to that 9 Gold BV here to create kind of a strawberry blonde color. So that's one of the ways I like to create some customization behind my chair. Or if I'm doing like a really smoky blonde, using our 10 ABV or our 10B and adding again just a little tiny bit of our 8B in there, just to create some customization here. I see we have some questions here. Let me take a look. I can answer these for you while we have a minute. Oh, I see Sam's on it. So I'm just going to keep going, and I see Sam's answering those questions for you guys. If there's something in there, she'll stop me and tell me if there's something we're missing, okay?
Lex, if you want to
Yes.
go into a little bit just to clarify, I did answer it in the chat, but
Yeah.
since there's going back and forth. So when talking about gray blending with HydraGloss, we should definitely elaborate a little bit more on some formulations, what that looks like, and what you can use.
Yes,
Because
I can
there are
do that.
definitely some questions.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you guys for your questions as well. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that as well. So in HydraGloss, the neutral family here provides up to 50% gray blending. So for example, you could use like your 4N or your 5N to help blend those grays in. It's not going to give you 100% gray coverage. It's just going to help blend the hair. So if someone doesn't want to commit, you know, maybe they're trying to grow their grays out, but they're not quite ready for that yet, or they're trying to step away from like an every 3 to 4 week retouch, this could be a great option for them. Is to go ahead and apply that. I would apply it dry. You can apply it damp, but if you want more opaqueness, I would apply it dry. So something I want to point out too, when I was talking about dry versus wet with the opaqueness, HydraGloss does go on damp hair. It can go on damp hair, but something I want to point out is what is damp hair, right? So I always think of like when you submerge a sponge and you wring it out, that would be damp. If there's too much water in the hair, if it's too wet, it could dilute the formula because the water is kind of acting as a diluter. So that's something I really wanted to point out since I just brought it up. But yeah, it does offer up to the 50% gray blending. It can go on dry or wet. So if you need more of that opaqueness, you might want to try putting it on dry. And then you could use that to blend the grays. Did that help answer the question, Sam?
Yep.
Good. Thank you guys so much. I want to make sure I get all your questions answered here. Awesome. Great. So we're going to keep going, talking about everything here. We're going to keep going. We talked about, again, yes, I saw a question, is it progressive? It is a progressive line. So it does process, we talked about earlier, up to 20 minutes. Now, when we say progressive, right, in the up to 20 minutes, it's non-oxidative hair color. So let's use 5R as an example, right? If you're applying a 5R and you're letting it process up to 20 minutes, it is going to deposit at a 5R. It's not going to deposit darker than that. It will deposit to that true to tone shade. What you'll see is since it's oxidative, from the 0 to 20 minute point, you will see that color oxidate from the air and start to appear looking darker as it processes. Now, if you left it on longer, it could oxidate darker. So it's good to follow the up to 20 minutes for the processing time of the recommendation. Awesome. So we covered a lot today. I know we covered so much stuff. We talked about how to use HydraGloss, when to use HydraGloss. We talked about some custom formulation. Look, I got it on the first try that time. So just going over, I want to recap everything that we talked about today, just in case anyone missed it earlier or you had still any unanswered questions. So again, just going over, remember HydraGloss is our Demi-Permanent shade, meaning it's our ammonia-free line. And the way you will utilize that is one part of your HydraGloss color to one part of your zero lift developer. You're always going to use your zero lift in processing up to 20 minutes. And remember that little pro tip, if you forget, the mixing ratio is on the back of the box here. Okay? Processing up to 20 minutes on dry or damp hair. Remember, if the hair is too wet, you could see that color get diluted. And in the same thing, if the hair is dry, remember porosity. So if the hair is dry and you're putting the color on, you could see it possibly go darker if the porosity is, a little lower. So keep those in mind too, the dry versus damp and what is best for your client behind the chair. Processing up to 20 minutes. We talked about here our full portfolio. You have your whole balanced neutral line. Remember, it's not going to be too cool or too warm. It's a true balanced neutral line, 1 through 10. And then you have your tonal families, some of those being beige, some of those being our blue series here, our beige, which is blue, our ash beiges, our gold beiges. Talked about, we have our red, our copper red, and our new family that we talked about as well, all the new copper shades as well. And then remember, we talked about on the back of the book, you can see where all those tonal families lie exactly. So, where does beige live versus where does gold live? It kind of breaks that down for you as well. Remember the little b's first, or the little letters, I'm using B as an example, first the capital. The capital, remember, they are calibrated to each level. The tones in them are calibrated to each level. So the capital letters mean that pigment is much stronger than it would be in a lowercase. And if you see two that are kind of together here, like copper red, CR, the C is capital. Again, that just means the copper is much more pigmented in this shade versus the red, because the red is lowercase. We also talked about some creative ways to use HydraGloss behind the chair, whether that's low lighting, glazing, your color refreshes, your gray blending. Remember, you get up to 50% gray blending as well. We talked about some maybe creative formulas, some ways you might use this behind the chair, how to intermix. Remember, all these shades are 100% intermixable. Also, the clear here, we talked about, can be used standalone as a glossing treatment or intermixed with any of these shades to create further customization. And that's our recap of everything you guys learned today in the HydraGloss class. Awesome. Let me see here. Will HydraGloss, yes, HydraGloss, I'm sorry, not HydraGloss. She asked, could clear dilute your level? Yes, absolutely. So if you're doing clear with your level, yes, it is a diluter. Awesome. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to just take a minute, make sure there's no, any last minute questions. Let's see here. Yes, we talked about, using clear can cut the level. Sorry, guys, when I go to the chat, it mutes me for some reason. If you didn't hear, I was going over the clear cutting the level. We answered that a second ago. Sam, do you see any other questions in there? Any last minute questions? Any formalization things?
No, I don't see any.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here with us today, me and Sam, and with Pravana. I love sharing HydraGloss with you, all the benefits, reasons why I love it, reasons why you will love it, talking about our new shades, going over those and bringing those to you as well. I can't wait to see what you guys create behind the chair using HydraGloss. Again, my name is Lux. You can find me at Lux Wardle. That's WARDLE. If you guys have any further questions that you think of afterwards, or formula questions, anything like that, feel free to always reach out to me over on Instagram. I'd love to hear more about how I can help or see what you guys create. I always love seeing that. And I want to thank you guys again for being here. I want to remind you, you can always check us out at pravana.com. And under that events tab, you can find more classes like this one that we offer on Zoom, usually once or twice a month. So you can go in there, they're free to sign up for. And then if, like Sam said earlier, if you do miss the class while it's airing, like right now, you can always get that video sent to you. You just have to make sure you sign up. So please go check that out for more upcoming education. And I want to thank you guys so much again. I'll be here, for the next few minutes if there's any other questions about HydraGloss. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Renee. Thank you.